Grassroots tournaments have and always will be the backbone of the Rivals community. As much of a home as we have at Super Smash Bros. Majors, the true, unrestricted community efforts by and for Rivals of Aether alone have long since been the most exciting to watch. Some of the best tournament experiences we have to offer come from the community itself, and truly allow our game the time to shine in the spotlight.
History!
Over December of 2022, without the month even being halfway over, the independent tournaments we cherish so much have absolutely flourished. We had Sunny Shore 2 in California, Unrivaled 12 in Florida, and it all culminated in One Day War, the first iteration of the new Chicagoland Regional. Many of the Midwest's finest players showed up to defend their home turf, and with a handful of special appearances from the East Coast and Arizona scenes, One Day War truly proved itself to be an instant classic, a truly fantastic event to end 2022's offline brackets. Despite the small size, this tournament really packed a punch. Notable names being pushed further than we've ever seen before, some up-and-coming talent truly getting a chance to show off, and a very certain Maple Main crushing all expectations. They say that history is written by the victors, so let's take a look at the action and see who was able to tell the story of One Day War. My name is Akashi, and you're watching the Rivals Recap. On a quick note, we'd really appreciate it if you gave the video a like and left a comment on it. It really does help us out. And if you enjoy these videos and want to watch more, you can always subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a new one. Thank you so much, and now, on to the video. While almost all of the top 16 lineup went exactly as seeded, Ateozc, the Chicago region's TO and Absa Olympia co-main, managed to be the one exception. After dropping to losers, he made quick work of Offbeat before making a big upset against Arizona's own Zora for the top 16 slot with a solid 3-1 set win. Unfortunately, his run ended at the hands of Mentos in a 3-0 finish for a solid 13th place. His fellow Midwestern competitors, Save and Wowels, also made similar significant runs. The former actually knocked Ateozc into the loser side with a close 2-0 before being bested by Akashi. Not to be stopped, they then defeated regional Eliana threat Das Popo for the top 16 slot, where they lost to Bookworm. While Wowels, on the other hand, took a solid 2-0 over Fruit Loops before running into the brick wall of Seggo. Then was able to steal away a barn burner of a 3-0 from our very own Baps to make it out of pools, where he then lost to Mr. Mutton for 13th place. Bookworm, the head TO of the event, also managed to outplace her seed, taking a huge upset over another Arizona player, the one and only Plastic Dinos, to make it into top 8. This tournament was overall a pretty strong showing for Bookworm, which I suppose makes sense given it was her event. Outside of the Dinos win, she took two very close 3-2 losses to MSB and Gizmo. Both sets went down to the wire, with Bookworm missing a few potential kills and getting punished out of advantage both times to end at 7th place. Rounding out the notable Midwest crew is fellow Eliana main and top 8 institution Sparks21, facing off against Sawtooth to once and for all gatekeep Arizona from showing up in top 8. Sawtooth has had, to put it lightly, a tragic season so far. It seems like the Arizona Sylph has been consistently losing last hit Game 5 nail-biters at every event he's attended. First, it was Squanto at Riptide in losers finals of their pool. Then, a tragic last hit Game 5 nail-biter to MSB at Heatwave 5 just outside of top 16, a set that had everyone in the venue on the edge of their seats. Even just a few hours earlier, it was no different, taking another extremely close last stock Game 5 loss to another top player in ZB, unfortunately not streamed. After taking out local SK Foxtrot 3-1 to make it out of pools, it seemed like history was bound to repeat itself once again, with the Arizona Sylph going 2-2 against Lord Bagel, unceremoniously, and off stream. Fate, however, had other plans. Sawtooth composed himself in the last game and managed to take out Lord Bagel at 13th place. And of course, the run can't stop there, as he went on to then reverse 3-0 Sparks and end the Eliana's run at 9th in yet another last stock Game 5 set. This set was extremely tense, showcasing Sawtooth's ability to slow down the pace of the game and survive just long enough to find an opening and snag the win right from under his opponent's feet. Game 4 was perhaps the best example of this. After going down 1 stock to 2 against Sparks, he managed to hang on to his final stock for over a minute and a half, all the while racking up damage and never letting Sparks close out the kill. That same pace of play carried over into the start of Game 5, managing to hold on to his first stock for a whopping 93 seconds. Sawtooth's run ended with a 3-0 run back against MSB, placing him at 7th with a +2 SPR. It really seems like the streak of bad luck he found himself in just might be turning around, and this is far from the end of his season. We at Stats of Aether are going to be keeping a very close eye on him in his upcoming run at Genesis 9, because that's sure to be a spectacle. One Day War also saw some competition show up from the Northeast, particularly Tristate. MSB outplaced his seed by 1, finally breaking his 9th place curse after beating Mr. Mutton and Sawtooth in losers. He then had to face against ZB, who's consistently given him trouble this season, and unfortunately this time was no different, with ZB's Malo taking him out 3-1 in losers quarters. Hopefully though, this tournament is the spark of momentum that MSB needed to put himself back in the game for the online major and Genesis 9. On the flip side was Akashi, also ending at 5th with a -2 SPR. After beating Sparks21 to make top 8, his winner's run ended with a 3-0 loss to Xaro, which caused Akashi to face off against Gizmo in losers. These two had faced off a few months ago, with Gizmo beating Akashi 3-0 at Riptide, and in their second meeting, the same story ended up playing out. Despite falling short of his expected 3rd place seed, Tristate's favorite Absa is still pretty happy to get another top 8 finish, and is feeling cautiously optimistic for the season finals at Genesis. Lastly is ZB, who has also been having a little bit of a rough one. He committed to playing Ateozc and Malo this tournament, planning to completely drop his legendary Crag after being nerfed. This tournament was proof that he can still perform very well without the Beetle, though it'd be remiss to ignore his rather eclectic counterpicks. He's talked about trying to use Ateozc and Forsburn, and maybe even slipping the Clarin into his lineup, as we saw them all make appearances in some form. The Clarin made a brief appearance in the crew battle against Gizmo, while the Forsburn and Ateozc found themselves being pulled out in the singles bracket against both Sawtooth and Plastic Dinos. ZB managed to knock out Plastic Dinos out of winner's side before falling to Seggo and Gizmo for 4th. Gizmo again, huh? Well, we had to talk about him sooner or later. Hailing from New England and having just recently moved to Illinois, Gizmo was certainly one of the most interesting players at One Day War. A consistent dark horse for nearly his entire career, he's only shown up to 2 notable offline events so far this season, but both times saw Gizmo blowing his seed completely out of the water. At Riptide 2022, he managed to take out Akashi and Cork on the loser side before falling to Y in a 3-2 set count for 13th. He ended that tournament with a +2 SPR over his 25th seeding, and yet still managed to top that monumental run at One Day War with a phenomenal +3 SPR, only being seeded for 7th place but taking home the bronze medal. Piloting a deadly trio of Zetterburn, Raster, and his utterly infamous Maple, Gizmo had an answer for almost every situation throughout the bracket, and consistently managed to clutch up when and where he needed to the most. After a 3-0 loss to Seggo in winners quarters, his path through losers was absolutely wild, starting with a 3-2 win over the SK4's dual main Mentos, then winning a barn burner 3-2 over Bookworm, Eliana being a character Gizmo's known to struggle with. He followed it up by snatching a rather decisive 3-0 over Akashi in the run back from Riptide, and managing to take things 3-2 over ZB in perhaps one of the sets ever, before finally falling to Xaro in losers finals for 3rd place. While Maple is his go-to character, Zetterburn and Raster both enabled him to salvage some otherwise scary situations, using Raster to reverse 3-0 Mentos, and Zetter to come back from a 2-1 deficit against Bookworm. Only so many people can pull off those kinds of counterpicks so consistently at a top level of play, and Gizmo is finally seeming to step into the spotlight that he almost assuredly deserved as the hiddenest boss in all of Rivals. While his future plans are still unsure, if and when he does end up at a tournament again, it's almost assured that he'll be tearing it to shreds. Midwest events are no stranger to getting dominated by the competition from the region, so it should be zero surprise that both Seggo and Xaro each had 2 of their best showings yet. Xaro in particular has had a fairly low-key season, only ever showing up at Midwest events but placing very well at them. After falling to the losers bracket at the hands of Uda very early at cost, he tore his way to 2nd place. Then, with an astounding 3rd place finish at Riptide 2022, beating the likes of ZB, Kusi, Subserial, and Danzello, this tournament seemed to be the opportunity he needed to place in the gold this season, especially with Xaro even winning the pre-local the night before. In the end, however, The absolute brick wall that is Seggo, fresh off the heels of a historic win at Heatwave 5, proved to be a little too strong when it mattered most in the finals of One Day War. During the span of Season 6, Xaro consistently beat Seggo in bracket, though this season has taken on a very different story. Seggo has taken at least one set off of Xaro at every ranked event that they both attended this year, arguably becoming a bit of a bracket demon for the legendary Arcane. That being said, Xaro's consistency seriously cannot be understated. He has forever been a solid brick wall for almost every player, and it only dropped games to Seggo throughout the entirety of singles. If you can believe it, this consistency can even be seen in his infamous usage of Downstrong. No, seriously, Xaro got over 40% of his kills with Downstrong in top 16, and he never hit less than 50% of the Downstrongs he went for in a given game. He hit every Downstrong in 7 of 19 games, and only got punished for using it 7 times out of 60 total. Not like in a set, mind you, for the whole of top 16. That's almost 90% of his Downstrongs going entirely uncontested. Xaro is scarily good at knowing when the simplest answer is the best one, taking full advantage of his excellent awareness, as well as his character's excellent frame data, at every point in the game. Definitely fitting for a player who hasn't missed a top 8 since 2019. Of course, it shouldn't be much of a surprise to hear that Seggo had a very strong performance at One Day War, once again managing to win a second super stacked bracket in a row with just solo Olympia. After having dropped a game to ZB in winners semis, he went on to trade sets with Xaro in winners and grand finals, coming out on top with a 3-1 in the reset. Seggo has recently expressed a desire to put competing on the back burner for the time being, so it's very possible that this ends up being the swan song for the history maker. But whatever route Seggo ends up taking, we're all excited to see what he's able to do next. The Midwest has been home to some of the most wild rivals events of this year, so having one more instant classic to cap off 2022 is oh so fitting. The Midwest continues to prove it's a region to be feared, and with dark horses like Sawtooth and Gizmo both earning their time in the spotlight as serious threats, we're getting to the point that almost nothing is certain. Even Cake, the indomitable greatest player of all time, has finally bled, and as old gods fall, the new ones have their opportunity to fight for their place at the top, and nobody knows who might end up there. The RCS season is finally nearing its end, with only RCS Online December and Genesis 9 left before learning who gets to write the history books. With so many players gunning for top 10, let alone any spot on the top 50, this year's rankings are surely the hardest to make it on than they ever have been before. It's anyone's guess who we'll see make it and who we'll see cut from the list. Everyone's fighting their hearts out, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. For Stats of Aether, my name's Akashi, and thank you so much for watching.